Griffey, who will be doing a brief presentation about the referendum that's happening. And we also have Amy Deedle doing some reading, and we have our candidates up here. Mark Peters is here as well. He's one of our organizers. Hello, Mark, in the back. And please feel free to ask anyone from Closer Together if you have questions about what's going on, how you can get involved, who we are, why we're doing this. We are always looking for interested and active people to get involved in what we're doing. So one of the key parts of our mission is education and community events, and that's what this event is all about. So again, welcome. This is the Wauwatosa Election Forum. And I'd like to formally bring everybody into this space. We have a lot of information to share from our candidates who are seeking elected office. And we are going to be really managing time quite efficiently to give everyone a fair opportunity to share what they have to share. And so let me go over the procedures of the day. So everyone knows this is also a Zoom event. Some people are participating online. So you will be seen and heard in the Zoom forum. So,
yes, I'm recording.
it is also being recorded, so it'll be accessible on our Facebook page. So please be aware. All right. Our intention is that this is a respectful and educational space where we honor each other's time. We let people have their full minutes to speak as candidates, and we hold our questions until the end. Okay. So what's going to happen is that the candidates will be brought up in groups of about 4. They'll each have their 3 minutes. They will be timed, and we'll go through 3 groups. And the rest will probably have 5 in it. And then after that, we'll have a brief presentation about the referendum. And then we will go into a conversation. And if you look over here, we'll be gathering in different parts of the room by your district, and then the municipal judges will be in the middle. So essentially from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, and judges in the middle. We'll have about half an hour for that. So please do think about your questions. You'll be able to mill about. The candidates will have to stay where they are. So. Well, on Zoom, I encourage you to please put your questions in the chat. Katie will be your communicator in the room. And please do number or name the candidate that you have a question for. And we will do our very best to work with that. I see there is a question for you.
I want to talk about the sound briefly. It's very helpful. You gotta keep away from your mouth.
It's too close?
Yeah, you gotta,
Okay. We're switching. Is this better?
yes.
All right. I encourage you to go with the flow. That's where our time is also. So at this time, I'd like to call up the first group of candidates from District 3, District 5, Patricia Stone, Ian Beck, Rob Gustafson, and Sean Lowe.
Yep.
I would like to add Joe Mclough to the group. So and Lynn will be timing.
Well, thank you very much for having us. Appreciate everyone coming out tonight. My name is Joe Mclough. I am a candidate for Alderperson in District 3. I am a lifelong Wauwatosa resident, born and raised. I'm actually living in the house where my parents grew up, where I grew up, my parents owned, and I purchased after I came back to college. I attended Underwood Elementary School, the old one, went to middle school and graduated from West High School in 1986. Went off briefly to college, University of Wisconsin Lacrosse, to get my undergraduate degree, completed a doctor of chiropractic degree at Northwestern Health Sciences University. And then me and my wife and I made the decision to come back to my hometown, back to Tosa. I'm very proud to call Tosa my home. Great place to grow up. I got into the race because I've been a little bit concerned about some of the direction in which our current elected officials have taken the city. I am, looking to make a change in Tosa, and I believe that the residents want change. Having the fact that we defeated an incumbent in the primary election, which is pretty rare even in the general election, it seems clear that Wauwatosa wants change, and I'm hoping to be that vector for change. A couple very important things to me is I look at the position of alderperson as being a resident advocate. We should be fighting for the people that elected us and the positions that they want to hold, not looking at outside interests. So it's very important to me that I am advocating for you, the residents of Wauwatosa, and what's in your best interest, particularly what you want. I will make sure that I listen to you. I will make sure that I'm holding multiple listening sessions on a regular basis so I can very clearly understand what it is that you want, and I can relay that to the common council as well. Another very important thing for me is sensible development. I am not anti-development by any means, but we need to make sure that development in Tosa is appropriate for the needs of Wauwatosa, based on our comprehensive plan and based on the needs of the neighborhood. Development should complement the neighborhood. It should not deter from the neighborhood. So we need to make sure that the development we're putting in place fits the neighborhoods in which they're being placed. This would include important things like appropriate height limits on buildings in Wauwatosa. I also am very strong when it comes to the community. I want to be your partner. I am very proud of the neighborhood associations. I'm very supportive of them. I think the more that we can come together as a community and work with one another, it's going to have a lot of good positive effects, including a reduction in crime. And I feel very strongly also about neighborhood watch groups, again, looking out for one another as a community. I very much appreciate it, and thank you for I hope your vote on April 5th.
Good job. Exactly 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Patricia Stone. I am also a candidate in District 3. I grew up actually in Germantown, Wisconsin, went to high school there, then I went away to the University of Minnesota for college. Came back and got my master's degree in urban history from the University of Wisconsin at Milwaukee. And then after that, I went to Marquette University for a law degree. So I am a practicing attorney. While I was in law school, I actually worked as a lobbyist advocating for housing in the state of Wisconsin. So I lobbied not only local officials, but also state officials on regulations that were usually proposed that would affect the affordability of housing. I understand how to read statutes, I understand how to read ordinances and make sure that they're drafted in a way that's consistent with the intent of the folks that put in place the statute, because that's what we see a lot as an issue, is where the intent of the drafters isn't really mirrored in the statute. So I think it's important that at a local level, we have folks in place that are able to do that, because it's important that we are communicating the will of the people through members on the Common Council. I have a husband and I have 2 boys. They both go to Eisenhower Elementary. I'm very proud Eagles there. As an older person, I would focus on, similar to Joe, the communication, making sure that the residents in District 3 understand what is being proposed to the Common Council, understand the implications of it, and getting their feedback on how that affects their lives and what concerns they may have over it. I think it's really important that the older person is not only a good listener, but an effective communicator at these Common Council meetings, and really communicates what their residents have concerns about. I also think that Wauwatosa needs to continue to be a strong steward of the environment. I've been endorsed by Wisconsin conservation voters for District 3. I think that it is important that we're looking at new development, making sure that it meets green benchmarks, looking at existing structures and make sure that they are not affecting the environment to any extent, and incentivizing improvements where we can. Because I do think that environmental issues are an issue that local governments can affect most efficiently. And then I also believe that, as an older person, I think Wauwatosa should continue to pursue initiatives that improve diversity in the community. And diversity not only among the population, but also within representation of the government. So thank you. Of course, the election is on Tuesday, April 5th, and I would be thrilled to have your vote. Thank you.
You can see it, can't you? You can see when you watch the news, when you look at our politics, our government, you can see the anger, the division, and the disunity.
We have your name and your district.
I'll get to that at the end, please. Thanks. I'm on a roll here. What I call the 3 C's: critical thinking, compromise, and common sense seems to every day be more and more of a lost art among our leaders. My opponent, it's so easy to see this election just as a popularity contest, just about what candidates can provide you with what you want to hear. My opponent feels the same way. He's not even here tonight to field your questions, provide anything of substance. This election is about having a vision, having a plan for the future of Wauwatosa. One of the first things I'll do is we have to fix communication between City Hall and the constituents. Over the past few years especially, there have been so many issues which have fallen by the wayside because their lack of communication is not there. One of the first things I'll do is I'll create one concise calendar which lists out every issue, and you want to know where and when you can add your voice to that issue. Next, I want to add a small business tax credit so we can ensure the lifeblood of Wauwatosa stays strong in this ever-changing world. After that, I agree with you as well that we need to do something about the skyscrapers which are encroaching on our skyline. I'll push for a zoning law which restricts that. And throughout my term, I will do everything in my power to ensure that our environment is kept safe. Not only does our green spaces, and especially places like the wetlands, not only is that attractive for people to live in Tosa, but that's the definition of our community. That's what makes us so much different from everything else. If you agree with me that you're tired of seeing disunity, of this action, of leaders who disrespect you, who abuse your vote and disregard your voice, then vote for critical thinking, vote for common sense, vote for compromise, vote for the future, vote for Ian Beck for District 4 Alderperson. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Civil rights leader Whitney M. Young once said, "It's better to be prepared for opportunity that never comes, rather than to have that opportunity come and not be prepared." I come before you tonight prepared for this opportunity to lead after decades of service in corporate America, where I've managed multi-million-dollar transactions. I've consulted on them as well. I come before you tonight prepared to lead with decades of volunteer experience in my role as the former president of the Milwaukee Urban League Young Professionals, where my organization filled thousands of hours of community service right here in our community. I'm no stranger to fixing dinners to those families staying at the Ronald McDonald House at Wauwatosa. I'm no stranger to doing mock interviews to the men at the guest house in Milwaukee and the homeless shelter. I'm not a stranger to service, and I look forward not to being a stranger to you if you elect me for District 5 Alderman. I'm Sean Lowe, and I'm coming with you with a lot of experience for this role. I'm coming to this seat with endorsements from the former mayor of Wauwatosa, Terry Esnes. I'm coming to you with support and endorsement from our firefighters union. I'm coming to you with support and endorsement from the Wauwatosa School Board president, because these individuals have seen me lead and serve in this community. They've also seen me serve in my role as chair of the City of Wauwatosa's Equity and Inclusion Commission. We've gotten a lot done, and I'm looking forward to having another voice at the table, at the Common Council that the people can believe in. And I look forward to your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
How the heck did all of these up? I'm Rob, current D5 Alder via appointment about 1.5 years ago. Longtime resident Tosa. I'm gonna take a little different approach. I want you guys to know about me a little bit. Business owner, own a brewery and coffee roaster on 55th and North. I've seen a bunch of your faces in there before. Vice president of the bid through there for close to 3.5 years now. We have a daughter at East who's just amazing, and I couldn't ask for a greater place for her to grow up. My reason for wanting to do this years ago when we opened the brewery and coffee roaster, one of our 3 pillars, well, the 3 there are coffee, beer, and community. There wouldn't be those things without the community that I live in and that gives so much to me on a daily basis. So one of those key things to me was, how do I get back? My original plan for that was to become part of the bid. That kind of took off. We got a lot of stuff done in that area, and when the opportunity arose to apply for the appointment for the D5 Alder, that was kind of my passion to kind of go through and see if that's something that I can continue to affect change in that area. In the time period that I've done that, I've realized that the area gives me so much, and this is how I can get back to it. I feel in my time on the council currently, I've been a collaborative person. I realize that I can't be one of 16. I have to be part of a group of 9, at least. I have to be able to work with all others. I can't subscribe to I's and me's. It has to be us and we's. I came up with that in the car ride over. It was a long day for here today. I brewed the beer that we do with Cranky Ales each year. So that was a long 13-hour day today. But that's my motivation to keep doing this. One of the big things that I've seen out at doors and a lot of my colleagues up here have said is communication was a big thing. I found it very hard to know what was going on with the city. I want to be a bridge to that. I want to be able to be available through a phone call, through an email. That's something that I pledge to do. I want to make sure infrastructure is taken care of, and that's something we've been working really hard on recently, and make sure that our place is safe. And that's something that there's been a lot of movement lately in a lot of these things. So those are few things about me, a couple of the reasons that I'm running, and would appreciate a vote on April 5th if there's anyone from D5 here. If not, thanks for listening.
Okay, good job. Group 1, you're actually getting all of your time back. All right, so you're ready to go. Bring up group 2. Katie Colden, who's representing Andrew Rydell. Margaret Freeman, Joe Phillips, and Amanda Bruce. To change it up, let's start over here.
Throwing us off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe with somebody else's phone.
All righty.
You don't need, I don't need a microphone.
Go for it, yes.
I used to be a preacher, so. My name is Joe Phillips, and I'm running for District 6 Alderperson. I'm running on common ground for the common good, because I think that's important, that we find that we have more in common with each other than we have difference, disagreement. It's been a joy getting to know my the hopeful constituents on doors, hearing from them what's important to them, and learning the process of knowing what's important, what are we striving for, and I think we can. I think that begins with our rhetoric and how we talk to each other and about each other, and importance of finding that common ground. And I appreciate Tosa Together for modeling that and bringing us together tonight to do that. I'm running for Alder because I enjoy solving problems. When my wife and I moved into Tosa 10 years ago, that's what we did. We started trying to find the common ground. We live on Ludington Avenue with our 4 boys. When we moved in, the speed limit was 35 miles an hour. I know it's a bit of a thoroughfare, but it's still a residential zone with families. So we got together with our neighbors. We worked together with the city. And we had the speed limit reduced to 25 miles an hour. My wife got involved with Friends of Hoyt Park, the Tosa Pool. A really exciting project that I got to be part of through that was helping launch the Landing, the beer garden. Who doesn't love the beer garden? It's a great gathering place for all of us. One night, a group of neighbors and I, about 20 of us, were walking home from that beer garden, crossing the Menominee River Parkway, and almost got run over by a car, just speeding through there, ignorant of the group crossing them. So we worked together, came before the city, and we had a crosswalk placed there. Later, we saw that the Stone Arch Bridge was in disrepair, crossing the river. My son noticed it when we were down there one time. So we went before the Tosa Pool Board. We went before Milwaukee County, we had it repaired. These are the sorts of things that I want to do. This is why I want to be an Alder. Most recently, I've been able to help my friend Liz Joy, who's launching Joy Ice Cream on North Avenue, get started. And those are the types of things that I care about. I hope I can represent my voters in District 6, any of them are here, any of them are online. Hope I can earn your vote on April 5th as we seek to find common ground for the common good. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amanda First, and I am running for Alderperson for District 7. I grew up here in Wisconsin, and I just loved it. I went and got my master's at Northwestern University, and then I moved out to California. So you might be saying, what's she doing back here? I love it. So my friends and my family have lived in Wauwatosa. I've always come through here every single time I come back and visit. Been here through a lot of the events that have happened in Wauwatosa over the past couple of years. And when it was time to move back, I was living in Los Angeles for 10 years. I bought my house, settled in, absolutely love the community, and thought to myself, all right, I've been following local politics, really see what's going on. Thought for years, it's the national politics, that's what we follow. And we realized it's our local politics that really affect our lives. So my plan was, I'll move here, I'll follow, I'll see what's going on, get involved. And eventually in a couple of years, I'll run for office. And then this winter, I saw no one was running for our district. And I thought, well, that must mean the time is now. So I'm running here for our district. I absolutely love our district and love Wauwatosa. But the surprising thing to me was to see how crime is raising and going up. And people are talking about leaving Wauwatosa and moving out to areas that are safer and places where they want to raise their kids more than here. And right now I see so many people just walking the streets and their dogs, and I've gotten to know so many people, and I don't want that to change. I don't want that to leave. And my experience of living in Los Angeles was kind of similar. I saw this beautiful community, and then everybody just up and left, even myself. It just got to a point where it was beyond livable, and I want to prevent that from happening here. So that's one of my big reasons for why I'm running. And I just care about this community so much. And I'm also a teacher, and I run an independent contractor business. So I'm very familiar with the needs of independent business owners. And I think that's one of the charming things we have here is just how many communities and local businesses we have. So I'd like to see that continue to grow. And outdoor, I love outdoor photography and nature photography, and just the eco space and the green space and all of the beauty that we have here in Wauwatosa is very important to me as well. And just, I want to thank you for this opportunity to represent you. And I believe that that's truly what it is. I'm representing you. And I don't come here with an agenda. Again, this was just sooner than I even expected, and I will be completely prepared and researched. I love and geek out on all that stuff. But I want to hear from you. I want to know, you guys have a lot of experience, a lot of background, to just put in your input so I can represent you, because that is my job as alderperson. So thank you, and I really hope to meet everyone after.
Hi, I'm Margaret Fritsch. I am running for Alderwoman for District 6. I want to thank Lynn and Margaret and Tosa together for putting this forum together for us. I live in Wauwatosa in the Pasadena neighborhood area. My husband Greg and I have been Tosa residents for 30 years. We've moved around 4 different times and within Tosa, and maybe there's still one more move yet, I don't know. My background is in marketing and public relations. I currently work for Mclough Strategies as the communication arm of it. I'm not a lawyer. One of the things that I do is work with clients who are going in front of a committee meeting, and we put together messaging and talking points. So I think that would be a good skill for me to bring into the Common Council to understand the other side of it. But I do have 5 main reasons for running. One, I want to be a steward of your tax dollars. If we want Wauwatosa to be affordable, we're going to need to find ways to hold spending and property taxes and increase revenue. I'd also like to consider different housing options for our seniors and people with disabilities so they can stay in the community that they know, love, and are familiar with. And an initiative I'd like to see to work with the school district is to expand the launch program for people with disabilities to get them the school to work training. Controlled development is another issue that I would take a thoughtful approach to development, and by asking these questions: does it fit with the neighborhood? Will it help maintain the character and property values of the area? And what do the residents think? And I'd like to put Tosans first. I'll listen and be a voice for Tosans, because it seems like in the past few years, our voices have kind of been drowned out, and we need to be the priority. And finally, and most important, public safety, which I've kind of heard a lot. Violent crimes have increased substantially, and I would support and stand with the police to figure out ways that we can curb reckless driving. One sad issue is recently brought to my attention that my opponent had a friend do an open records request on all of the communications that I've done in the past 3 years, and then somebody posted it on Facebook. And I got really mad about that, but then after thinking about it, I thought, you know what, things that were posted show how passionate I am about crime. The email to the police was asking statistics, because I want to know. Facts matter. So I am passionate. I have written to my alders, and as a citizen, that's your right. That's how government works. And you should feel free to write to your alder and not have retribution. So if you're interested in what I have to say, I'll meet with you. Vote for Margaret Fritsch for District 6. Thank you.
I thought I'd be behind the podium. So. I'm Katie Colden. I am not Andrew Michael. I'm here in his stead today. He is running for alderperson of District 1. Unfortunately, he's out of town, so he's unable to be here himself, so I'll just say a few words. Andrew is a good friend. He's a good neighbor, family man, and leader. He loves Wauwatosa and wants to see it grow and prosper. I know he's taking this race very seriously, and he wants to see Tosa move forward rather than backward. I support him because not only does he have experience in government service and a background in environmental politics, but he also cares deeply about his friends, neighbors, family, and community. He is focused on maintaining city services, filling vacancies at the police departments, responsible developments, and keeping Wauwatosa a welcoming city for all people to live, work, and play in. He's running because he wants to make our city a better place. I will not be taking questions tonight. but I will refer you to his website, which is mindlfortosa.org. So it's MEINDL, the number 4, tosa.org. Please reach out to Andrew if you have any questions, concerns, comments, and thank you for your time. I do have some flyers. I didn't realize how many people would be here, so I'll put them at the back table. If you would take a flyer when you leave, and don't forget to vote on April 5th. Thank you.
I want to especially thank the last speaker because she never wanted to run for office yet. So we did have a couple of our older candidates who didn't have the choice and had to be out of town for work. And by the time we had scheduled this, they sent their regrets. And we offered them the option to put someone forward in the case of Andrew, he was able to find a kind neighbor who was willing to do that.
Okay, as you can see, our third group, can please come to the stage. We have Melissa Jolin, John Larry, Krista LaFave, and JC Moore. And I'd like to say favorably, we are running a little ahead of time, and we will use that time for the group discussion. And I hope you are holding your questions, writing them down, reminding yourselves of what you want to ask. And we'll start at the far end this time. Yes.
The microphone.
As well.
Hello? I also thought there'd be a podium. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to Tosa Together for hosting this event. And thank you to my husband for your support. I'm very grateful. My name is Melissa Dolan, and I'm running in District 8 for Alderperson. And it is my distinct honor and privilege to be here tonight as your candidate in District 8 in this great city of Wauwatosa. I only have 3 minutes, so here I go. I'm a born leader. I run towards the fire and I lead others to safety. That is who I am. I'm an advocate of voiceless, and I have stood in defense of those who needed help when there was no one. And I will continue to do that until the day that I am called home to the heavenly thereafter. And I've spoken up for all the innocent creatures and lived every side. I have stood in opposition and did not support the industrial component to that specific residential setting. I personally felt that if the city would open up the floodgates for any and every industrial request moving forward. I have stood in defense of the historical cap that was slated to be destroyed. What everyone doesn't know about me is that I have a vast and rich work experience in history. I've worked retail, many different roles at Mayfair Mall, including on the sales floor and on the dock and shipping and receiving. I have worked commercial client services at Bank One, problem solving, listening to customers' requests and complaints, and finding answers for them. I've worked at Wisconsin's closing services for the Hoyer family. All of this. I was in cold hard cash at the Easter Bunny set. I was escorted through the mall with the police department at one point because I was carrying such an insane amount of cash. Hippity hop. My point in sharing all of this is that customer service is my forte, it's my wheelhouse, and it's what I love to do. See people smile through the goods and services that I can provide. I am a small cog in a giant big wheel. And in closing, I would do just that. I would provide customer service to not only my constituents, but also the great city of Wauwatosa.
Okay.
You
All right.
should elect me because I will not embarrass myself and I will not embarrass the city. Thank you for your time and thank you for your vote.
All right, Josh.
All right.
Take it, sir.
Taking it. She could have some of my time. I'm good.
I put it in big print so I could read it.
You did. Thank you so much.
I hustled.
Hustled and bustled. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you to those of you who put this together. I don't really have too much to say, I think, anyway. I'm the new kid on the block. I am not a native of Wisconsin. I am from Chicago, actual Chicago, not the Chicagoland area, but Chicago. Moved here about 6 years, no, not 6, about 13 years ago. Was in River West, moved here for teaching. I've been in the educational field for nearly 2 decades, believe it or not. I know I don't look as old, but I am. I've been here for nearly 2 decades with my wife, who I've also been married to for nearly 2 decades. We have 4 daughters, a 16-year-old who just started driving, Wauwatosa West. She attends. A 13-year-old who's at Whitman Middle School, a 7-year-old, and Raya, who's at Madison Elementary, and a 3-year-old who goes to Wauwatosa Daycare on St. Mary College premises. Enough of that, right? I could talk about the educational background that I have. Undergrad, master's, was a PhD student as well. But really what I want to focus on is the time that I've spent in the classroom and as a school administrator, because those experiences is what have prepared me for the call. And it's honestly a call that I feel to fulfill here in Tulsa in District 8. I don't have a well put together speech as those who have gone before me, but I will tell you this. And the flyers that I passed out and have been canvassing, at the bottom it says this: Tulsa, a first-class city for all. It's all inclusive. It's including everybody from all walks of life, whatever your socioeconomic background is, it does not matter. I'm all about helping build a Tulsa that is for everyone, where everyone could come and feel as though they are a part of a place. We're talking about this buzzword community, right? The Tulsa community. I'm all about being out in the community and in whatever shape, form, or fashion that I can help build it to do just that. That's my call, to help build a better Tulsa for everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone. So my name is JC Moore, and I'm a candidate for municipal court judge. I want to start off by thanking the organizers, thanking all of the other candidates, and also thanking you all for taking the time to come out here and listen to our views. The municipal court judge candidates didn't get questions in advance of this. So this is my only opportunity to be able to provide you information about who I am and what I stand for. So I want to be absolutely clear in that. First off, I stand for racial justice, equity, and inclusion. I was a public defender for 20 years. During that period of time, I was a proponent of racial justice, equity, and inclusion in every argument that I made on behalf of every client that I represented of color. It's a very important thing to me. For more information about it, I actually have a handout at the back of the room. Take a look at it. You'll be able to find out more information about what I've done over my 30-year career on that issue. I stand for public safety. I'm a court commissioner. I've been in that role for the last 8 years. I actually sit out in children's court, and every day I make decisions about the safety of victims, the safety of our kids, and the safety of the community. It's a critical thing for me. I stand for public service. I'm a veteran. I served 32 years in the military. I gave back to the community by being a judicial officer for the last 8 years. As I said before, I served this community in a variety of different roles with different organizations, with different groups, that sort of thing. And I want to give back to the community that I grew up in and that I raised 4 kids in by being your municipal court judge. I stand for effective court programs and innovation. I've spent my entire career starting different types of alternative court programs throughout the county. I've started a veterans court, I've started a drug treatment court, I've started a deferred prosecution agreement program, and I'm also in the process of starting a program for high-risk, high-need youth out of children's court where I currently sit right now. I think we can bring that kind of innovative thinking to Wauwatosa as well. I stand for individualized justice. You need to know the difference between zealous enforcement and being able to use different resources in order to stop bad behavior before it starts and before it escalates into something that I see in delinquency court or that you see downtown in criminal court. I stand for working with people with different backgrounds and beliefs. This is very important to me. I've done it for many years, serving on a number of different collaborating councils in the criminal justice system. And I want to be absolutely clear on something. A judge needs to be fair and impartial. We are not aligned with any sort of groups. We need to make decisions without paying attention to any sort of politics or any sort of beliefs. I have done that. I've done it for many years. I am not aligned with any sort of groups. I have not endorsed any of the candidates, and I have not taken, I have not paid money to any of the other candidates. And so it's important that you remain fair and impartial as a judge. And I'm getting the hook here, so I will conclude by saying that I'm looking forward to being able to answer any questions that you might have and think about me on April 5th.
Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Lefebvre. I'm also running for municipal judge here in Wauwatosa. As you said, we have not had a forum or anything else, so this is our few minutes that we get to tell you what we're about. I do urge you to go to my website, christopherjudge.com. I've got a lot more information there, and also my cell phone's on there, so you can always call me if you have more questions. And thank you to Tosa Together for organizing this. So I'm going to take a little different tack and tell you what I think is important based on how I decide when I'm supporting someone in my vote. And that is first their background, who they are as a person, and then secondarily their values, because I think that's also important to who they are. So in terms of my background, I'm a committed Wauwatosa resident. My grandparents lived here. I grew up wanting to live here. So after college and law school and working, when I was back in Wisconsin, I picked this as my home, and I immediately got involved with my neighborhood association, became the president for a few years, and have been on the Board of Zoning Appeals for a few years. So I'm very involved in the community, and I see this as a really exciting opportunity for me to continue that and really put some new procedures and policies in place that will benefit Wauwatosa overall. One thing I've learned while knocking doors at the various meet and greets and events I've had is that there's a lot of misinformation about what the court is. And I think there's a really great opportunity to educate Wauwatosa, possibly educate students through the schools and give more information, because this is really an important position. I'm a plaintiff's attorney. I also do plaintiff's personal injury work. So about 85% of the cases in the court are things related to traffic. And that's what I do every day in my job. Rules of the road, driving violations, insurance, licensing. And I also see what happens when people don't follow the rules, and also when they don't have their driver's license, when they don't have insurance. Those are really big issues that I've seen a lot coming up after the pandemic. And I think there's a really great opportunity to intervene with those people and explain why it's important. And I talked too long about those, and I'll quickly give you my values. Fairness, I want to create new programs in terms of information for people coming to court so that they feel they're treated fairly. I believe it's really important to have compassion and understanding as a judge. People want to be able to speak. You need to be able to sort through what's relevant, but it's important that they're able to have their time. I can't control how someone feels when they leave the court, but I can create systems and how the court staff and myself treat people. So hopefully they leave feeling that they were treated fairly. They might not like the outcome, but they feel they were treated fairly and that they leave with their dignity intact. So thank you. I hope to earn your vote on April 5th.
Thank you all. And I want to thank the people here for being patient and respectful and listening to all of our candidate statements. We'll now have a brief presentation about the referendum that is coming up on the ballot. Mrs. Sarah Griffey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you to those at home on Zoom as well. Again, in the spirit of having a nonpartisan forum, I will be reading first just what the referendum is, and then I'll be reading arguments against the referendum and then arguments for the referendum. So this will take about 7 to 10 minutes. Bear with me. It is important we think that we all truly understand what's going on with the referendum. So what is the referendum? It has two parts and they are combined into one vote. Voters will decide if 1, the size of the Common Council should be reduced from 16 to 12 members, and 2, we should create a term limit for alderpersons so that no person could serve more than 2 consecutive 4-year terms unless 1 full term or more has passed since that person last held office. So a yes vote is a yes for both parts, a no vote is a no for both. The exact question you'll see on your April 2022 ballot is, shall the charter ordinance be adopted as presented to the Common Council on July 20th, 2021 to reduce the number of alderpersons per district from 2 per aldermanic district to 1 per district, define 12 aldermanic districts, create term limits for alderpersons, establish transitional procedures, and establish effective dates. There is a proposed timeline for all of this that you can find. We could talk about that later if there's interest, but in the interest of time, I'll skip the proposed timeline for now. That would be if the referendum does pass, there is a proposed timeline. So the second part of what I have to present to you is the arguments against reducing the number of alders and the size of the Common Council. So in other words, a no vote would look like this. The proposal would reduce the number of alders from 16 to 12 and cut the number per district from 2 to 1. This will result in less representation, more work for each alder with very little change in salary, and less diversity on the council. It also inevitably puts more power into the hands of unelected city staff, which is a growing concern of many in Wauwatosa. In terms of having just 1 alder per district, while this is more common in other cities, it is not unique to Tosa. West Allis also has 2 alders per district. This means that citizens get to vote on someone to represent them every other year. If the referendum passes, you will get only 1 chance every 4 years. 2 alders per district also means having a better chance of having at least 1 representative who shares your views. By cutting the Common Council by a quarter, we will be likely to see a decrease in diversity, both among people of color and women. Tosa Together's review of available research concluded that women and minorities were more likely to win seats on larger municipal councils, and that larger councils had more impact on diversity than term limits. Some claim the proposal will save money, but the same pot of taxpayer money, $80,000, which now pays each of our 16 alders $5,000 per year, will be used to pay 12 alders $6,666.67 per year. This is not nearly enough to ensure that more people will run for these low-paying jobs. Plus, each alder will have more work because the number of working committees will not decrease. Instead, they will become more reliant than ever on city staff. The proposal would have each part-time alder serving more people in a larger district in a city that is anticipating growth. This is a particular issue for Wauwatosa, whose alders are very poorly paid in comparison to similar-sized communities. Anyone who is not retired or independently wealthy who wishes to be an alder still needs to have a full-time job with benefits to live. Again, not conducive to getting more candidates to run. One of the main arguments supporters have used is that too many alders are taking up the time of the city administrator. But isn't that their job, to ask questions and his to answer them? Do we really want fewer questions asked of unelected officials by our citizen representatives? So that's the first part of it. Arguments against term limits. Term limits already exist. We call them elections. Although the idea might be popular right now, they only amplify the shift of power away from democratically elected representatives to unelected staff. Term limits take choices away from voters, preventing otherwise qualified candidates from seeking re-election. Term limits can increase polarization. Relationships and experience tend to allow for coalition building and compromise necessary for governing. The referendum does not allow the voter to give input on what the term limit would be, nor does it address the elections would only happen every 4 years in a district. Although term limits often are seen as a way to reduce the influence of lobbyists and special interest influence by reducing entrenched relationships with officials, they also mean officials will be less experienced, making them more dependent on those with deeper institutional and policy knowledge, lobbyists, unelected staffers, and policy wonks, to deal with complex issues. New alders will have to be brought up to speed, more likely not by their fellow alders, but by staff, who can then frame the issues as they see fit. At least one study has shown that legislators who are not term limited are more likely to build cooperative relationships with fellow legislators. The referendum gives no guidance on what the term limits would be and what happens if no one, for the only spot in that a district would have on the council. All right, so that was the no vote. Arguments for reducing number of alders and the size of the common council, a yes vote. Under the current system, it is common for alder candidates to run unopposed. A smaller council could mean more competitive elections, which could help improve voter engagement and turnout, yield stronger candidates, and motivate incumbents to be more responsive to their constituents. Wauwatosa's current council and size and structure has been in place for decades, and yet it has not led to a diverse council. Wauwatosa's alders are currently 100% white and 25% women prior to the April 2022 election. There would be fewer seats to fill and more competition. Wauwatosa's 16-member council is larger than the councils in most similarly sized cities. For example, Brookfield has 14 members, West Dallas has 10. Somewhat smaller cities, Oak Creek and Menominee Falls, each have 7, and Franklin and Greenfield each have 6. Even some significantly larger cities, such as Milwaukee, have fewer members than Wauwatosa's council. Milwaukee has 15, though they are full-time. Like Wauwatosa, Brookfield, and West Dallas have 2 council members per district, but they have fewer districts. Assuming the budget stays the same, alderpersons on the council could be paid slightly more. Our alderpersons are part-time and pay is very low. Currently, there are 8 districts with 2 alders per district, each representing 3 wards. With the proposed referendum, there would be 12 districts, each with 1 alder representing 2 wards. Thus, each alder would represent fewer residents, which could decrease the overall number of constituent communications to read and respond to. Because most residents currently write both of their alders. The smaller districts would also make running for office more manageable and less expensive. Under the current system, when a district's 2 alders vote differently, it essentially cancels out the district's voice on a particular issue. A smaller government is more efficient and might make it easier for alders to reach consensus or make change on important issues. It would be clear to residents which alderperson to contact. The current system sometimes confuses new or less engaged residents, and City Hall staff would have fewer alders to communicate with. Arguments for the term limits. Term limits make space for those who want to serve but cannot leverage a competitive campaign against an incumbent. Election research shows that a major factor in winning an election is being an incumbent, as they have name recognition and a better financial position for a campaign. Term limits help possible new candidates plan ahead for a run and not have to wait until just a few days before the deadline to file to run to find out if a seat will be opening up with no incumbent. Some studies have shown that term limits increase voter turnout. This is likely because term limits increase the number of competitive elections, giving voters more newcomers to consider. Term limits can lead to newcomers bringing fresh perspectives and new data to their decision-making processes.
Thanks, Sarah. So now we're just going to spend about 10 minutes talking as a group about the referendum. There hasn't been a whole lot of public conversation about it. And my first question is there anything on the no side that you felt should be lifted up or was missing from the points that were made? Okay, 1, 2, 3.
I think we need to mention, we only have a part-time elected mayor. So we have less representation to begin with. Many of the other cities that you mentioned, that is one difference, that we have a part-time mayor and they have a full-time mayor. The other piece is it was mentioned as far as the pay for our alders. Many of the cities you mentioned that have less alders, some of them, like in Milwaukee, I believe the alders are paid about $72,000 a year with healthcare. Our alders are more of a service position. So we have to take that into consideration. I would rather see us have a full-time mayor than these changes, because we'd be dealing with, would have more government for and by the people.
Thank you. And then I saw 2 hands over here.
Why was it one question with 2 answers?
Perfect.
So, well, yes, I'm sorry, it's 2 questions, but you can only answer 1. Why not vote no? No, there's 2 questions. There's 2 separate distinct questions.
Yes. I
You can
second
only
the
answer
motion on the
one
floor.
way only. So why not vote no and then bring those 2 questions back, separate and distinct, so the voters can make a decision whether they want to reduce. Maybe there's voters who want to reduce but don't want term limits. Maybe they want it the other way around. The way that it's written, it's feeding somebody's agenda. I don't know whose agenda it's feeding, but it doesn't make any sense to ask a question when you have 2 parts to the question. The other thing is just a little biblical thing. Don't pay anybody 666.
To be fair, I don't think that was done.
I see a couple different problems, mainly with the reduction in size of the government council. It really does limit the voice of the people when it comes to particular projects. Right now, the common council went about reducing something that was called a protest petition. Whereas if a particular development was put in an area and residents were objecting to it, they could put together this protest petition and present it to the common council. At which point in time, the requirement would be a 2/3 vote in order to approve that project. They have severely weakened the use of that protest petition, and now they are looking to reduce the common council, which would simply make it easier for them to pass the projects with a lower number of simple majority vote. So if we're looking at a simple majority in this case at 16, that takes a majority of 9. Whereas at 12, it only takes 7. It may seem that that's only 2 votes and not significant, yet it can be very significant when it comes to some of these projects and the voice of the people and the will what they want. The other thing to be looking at is what happens if you have an alder that simply does not do their position with 1, then the voice of the people, the representation of the people, whose voices have been taken away from them, or if an older person would leave for some reason, or heaven forbid they would pass away, it takes 2 to 3 months to replace that person through the process to get a new alder. During that point in time, those residents of that district would have no voice representing them as a common council.
Thank you. So it's just, nobody's saying that this is how you're gonna vote. This is just a common thinking that we're doing together. Was there anything on the yes side that either you'd like to elevate and again have people consider, or was not mentioned in the presentation? No, this is a yes side. Okay, one in the back here. Like I said, nobody's gonna say you're this or that, this is educational.
Hi, thanks very much. Allison Byrne, one of the alders. Hello. Thanks. And thank you for the forum and for opportunity for us to listen. I think that I love the suggestion that for some reason this referendum fails, the alders that are listening up front put this back on the ballot because I think it's important. You know, back 12 years ago, 72% of the public voted that they would prefer a smaller council. And this is the first time we've managed to put it on the ballot at all. So, you know, if it fails this time and it comes again, I would be all for that. I am someone that voted against making the protest petitions easier, but an absolutely advocate and feel it's appropriate to have a smaller council size. One of the reasons I can speak to that as to being an alder for about 8 years is unfortunately or unfortunately because of the guy in front of me. So I served with Jeff my first 2 years, and my experience serving with Jeff Rosnowski was the senior alder did a brunt of the work. They did 80 to 90% of the emails, they had the experience. Like right now you have 8 different districts. You probably have about 8 people working really hard in your district. And then you have the other person listening and absorbing, which could be done by other alders as well. Now, for 6 years, I've been the senior alder, and I've had the opportunity to work with 2 wonderful women, and I've been doing about 80% of the work. You know, so you have 2 alders, but it doesn't mean the work is divided easily. It doesn't mean the communication is efficient, and it probably means most of the people don't even know who both of their alders are. So when you have 2 wards that you are in, 1 alder is representing, as opposed to 3 wards, you have a smaller geographical distance that you are representing. And being on the council for 6 years as one of these small amount of women that have been there, and the larger council has not led to greater diversity, but I'm glad that's going to be changing soon. So thanks, Margaret.
All right, do we have another?
I'll take a motion.
So your comment was, or one of the things you said that having a bigger council doesn't help us because there's a junior and a senior for each district, and the seniors doing most of the work while the juniors kind of learning on the job. So if we go to a smaller council, there is no junior senior, there's just juniors. Now, how do the people then learn? All of a sudden, people who like you when you were starting out were learning and had the benefit of a senior who could do more of the work while you were learning. In this new system, you don't have that. People come in and they're SOL, and that's where's the benefits?
I would have been SOL, except maybe this guy over here. So here we have another alderperson, Alderman Franzen over here. And it shouldn't be that you just learn from the person that is only in your district. There should be more cooperation amongst alders, and you should be able to learn from, and you know, you should come really prepared. We should expect our alders to do their homework and come prepared. And I think that there should be an expectation that our alders seek out and proactively educate themselves on these issues. Thank you.
All right, I'll invite one more pro. BJ, you are a pro.
Actually, my name is BJ Armans, and I am on the commission now for Citizens with Disabilities. So I've been learning a lot more about our city government. And I have one request, and I'm so glad, thank you, that TOSA Together did not put on there under the pros that 12 years ago in an off-year election with, I don't know what the turnout was, that those people voted for term limits or whatever. I have to say things have changed a lot in 12 years, and I would like people to just remove that from the argument. Yeah.
I'm not sure that I follow exactly what you said.
Oh, I have heard people talking as a pro that the reason for voting yes is that 12 years ago, there was a non-binding referendum and it was passed. It was 12 years ago in a non-presidential election. So it had a much smaller turnout and things have changed in that 12 years. I would say there are different people here and people may have different opinions. So I personally am not giving any credibility to that in terms of why I should vote for or against this.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we are doing terrific on time. So we get to have a lot of time in our small group discussions. So now I'd like to ask our alders our alder candidates to move to your spots. And we actually do not have representation from District 1. And I invite everybody in the audience, take a look around the room, see where the people are that you want to talk to. And okay. And I just want to thank everyone for being here. This concludes the stage part of this conversation. And we need to be out of the room because this is our library at 8:30. They were serious about that. So if you need to move your conversation to one of our several meetings